let's begin in our seated meditation. Really tough for our core strength, our pelvic floor, and our hip mobility to be here. Excuse me. Please be sitting any way that's comfortable for you. And feel free to sit on a block or anything else that we might need. And if we're okay here, option to close our eyes. We may like to bring hands to heart center. Maybe hand to chest and belly to be more in touch with our breathing. Or in light of that rib cage measurement, maybe we want to actually take our hands around our ribs and see today how much feeling we have of our ribs and how much expansion we have of our rib cage. And our breath is three-dimensional, right? We can breathe front to back, side to side, top to bottom. So even maybe with our inhalation, we're noticing slight movements of our collarbones, shoulder blades. Sometimes it feels as though we can breathe into our underarms, sides of the waist, low back. And even though we're soft so that we can have the fullness of breath required to be here, we're still strong through our back muscles, strong through our core, our pelvic floor. And let's expand our awareness outward, scanning the body head to toe, noticing how we're feeling on a physical level. Bringing into our awareness any parts of our body that need a little bit more attention this evening. Maybe things are feeling tight, cranky, maybe we have a little pain, maybe we feel energized and ready to go. Again, choosing a word or a handful of words to describe those feelings, making note of it for ourselves. And I'll give us the option here to do a little reframing. In our level 2 training, we call this face and replace. It's an NLP technique of reframing. Similar to emotional freedom technique, we can say something to ourselves like, even though I'm feeling uncomfortable in my low back, I can take care of my body during this yoga class. So we acknowledge whatever the discomfort is, we allow it to be there, and then let's see if we can reframe or put a plan in place for working with that feeling. So maybe we're thinking, even though I'm feeling sad today, I can allow my yoga class to nourish me. Or we can say to ourselves, I'm noticing pain in my right knee, and I can be gentle with myself today. And our internal dialogue might be kind or cruel, but let's reshape it into a more helpful thought. So let's give it a moment here. We face it and then replace it with a more helpful thought. I'm noticing unhelpful thing or unpleasant feeling, and then replacing it with something a little bit more helpful. I'm noticing my breath is shallow, and that's okay. Each time I practice yoga, I'm doing good for my body. And let's let that thought go. And we'll actually begin with a 4-7-8 breath. And this is supposed to be one of the best breaths to shift anxiety, or if we're feeling a little flighty, can help us sleep at night. So we'll go like this. We'll inhale for 4, bringing hands to heart center. Pause for 7. And then as we exhale, big circle sweep up, around, and back. All right, so let's do it together. We inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath for 7. 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we exhale, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4. Hold for 7. Gentle through the neck. And then a long exhale, maybe through the mouth. So that's our 4, 7, 8 breath. Let's do a few more rounds together. In for 4. Hold for 7. Long exhale. And some people like to do a forceful exhale. Okay, we keep it going. 4. Okay, last one here. Feel free to play with the numbers. Doesn't have to be perfect. In for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. Perfect, you got it. Let's get into movement. Lateral flexion, side to side, matching breath to movement. Inhaling as we're reaching up, exhaling, coming back through center. We've probably done this a bazillion times before. So when we match breath to movement, super good for our nervous system, our focus, our concentration. We know we're in an increasingly distracted world. Concentration is only getting more difficult. So it's nice to just have a routine fallback. We started with something novel, and now we're coming back into something maybe that we've done many times before. On the note of listening to ourselves, we now know this, our svadhyaya, our self-practice, noticing the speed that you like to go. Some people are fast breathers, some people are slow breathers, some people are gentle breathers, some people are intense breathers. Let's notice our habit patterns or our samskaras, our own nature here. And then breathing in a way that feels good. So breathing in our nature might feel good, might feel not so good. We might want to alter it, and that's okay. Right, I'm noticing that I'm breathing a little bit too much. I'm going to slow it down. Let's make this our last one. We'll come back through center. All right, strength through our core, and then we'll get moving. We'll give our hips a break because we've been here a little while. Let's start again from our ribs. We can spread our fingers wide on our ribs and we'll twist. We'll inhale to prepare, long spine, and then exhale, turn and twist using our core. Back to center. Inhale, long spine. Exhale to twist, alternating side to side. Inhale, center. Exhale, twist. So helpful with the hands on our ribs to focus on pulling from our back and core muscles. We could also have our hands at heart center, thumbs touching sternum or chest so that we have contact, that we know we're not just artificially twisting with the arms, but we're actually pulling from the core. And I like to invite my students to find a fresh perspective as we turn the head, so that we might really feel some challenges during our class today, doing poses we've never done before, things we've never done before. Let's see if we can be open, we can be curious, fresh perspective. And if we're really longing for a deep twist, okay, if we want to do this last one on each side, a bit more typical, feel free to do so. Get a little bit more crank out of our arms, and then we'll meet back in center. And let's give these hips a break. So sitting is fantastic for our strength and stability, but you know what? We can feel a little bit tight. So windshield wiping, and a lot of people are getting into these deep 90-90s these days. I would say that's a pretty advanced practice. I really struggle with this one. So a gentler version is to have a little weight back on the hands, loosen up the hips any way we can. And then I'll invite each of us to come into child's whenever we're ready. Noticing our range of motion in our child's today. So as we're sitting our hips down and back into child's, maybe we're feeling tight. One thing that we lose as we age is overhead range of motion. Sorry, I'm just going to take my sweater off. I'm cooking, which is quite nice actually. In this Vata season, it was, I think, -3 Fahrenheit yesterday when I got up. It's been chilly. All right, so testing out our overhead range of motion and not overdoing it. We will do a little bit of work with our hands on our wrists. And if we feel okay in our shoulders, maybe we're shifting our weight front and back a few times. Maybe we're loosening up our hips, shifting side to side. If our forehead can touch the floor, we could be turning the head side to side. Breathing maybe more into the back of the body and the underarms here, feeling the expansion in those places. And then let's get into our stability and mobility balance. So we're going to be strong and stable through our hands, spreading our starfish fingers. Soft through our elbows, but strong through the arms. And we're going to be mobile through the spine. We'll do our cat and cow. We've probably done this many times before. So we can inhale to prepare. And then with our exhale, pressing into the earth with our hands, each bone of the knuckle and the tops of our feet, making our spines like a rainbow. And then as we inhale, making our way into cow, lengthening the back of the thighs, shortening our back muscles. And we may actually have a little bit of trouble matching breath to movement. You know, we're supposed to exhale in cat, really pull the belly in, inhale in cow. That might be a little bit tricky. So actually what our participants might find easier with limited lung capacity is to inhale to prepare, exhale to move, inhale to come back to neutral, and then exhale into cow. That might feel really weird, but we now know that novelty is good for the brain, so it's okay. So we're exhaling in cat still, inhaling to come to neutral, and then exhaling in cow. This might actually help us pull our abs in and stay strong in this back bend. Let's go once more. Inhaling neutral, exhaling cat, inhaling neutral, and exhaling cow. And let's pause in cow. So that breath pattern might just give us the time that we need to move between poses. And I like to pause in cow since as we age, we maybe get more into a cat-like position and coming into cow and finding a little freedom of movement front and back or wagging our tails. Might feel nice. All right, yogi's choice. We can make our way back into down dog or child's. And actually, I should have said, for any of us who want to come off our wrists, we could have been sitting on our heels this whole time. Sometimes it's nice to do cat and cow in a seated position. But if we are okay putting our weight on our hands for down dog or child's, we can do that. Again, maybe a little bit of freedom of movement, listening inward, seeing what our body is naturally inclined to do, and then we'll make our way into standing. And let's add our hip hinge here. So we'll walk our feet in, maybe a little bit wider than hip width to feel strong and stable. Let's kind of put a good bend in those knees. And it might even feel like our cow pose to come up halfway with a long spine. So sort of a variation of monkey or a flat back. Practicing our hip hinge, our hand sandwich. This is where mirrors or cameras on Zoom can be really helpful, that we can see, oh, I really thought that I was flat, but actually I'm like completely hunched forward. Another one that we can do is if we take a breath, maybe we put our hands on our ribs again, maybe belly and chest, maybe our hands back a bit more. If we just feel our back muscles stretching when we inhale, that's a good chance that we're not hip hinging. We're really slumping. So let's try to expand our hearts forward. Feel the inhale also in the front of the torso. And then finally, we can use our back line strength to come all the way up. And if we have any participants who get a head rush, that's a good one for them too. All right, let's reset. We'll give it a few circle sweeps here. Reaching tall, checking in with shoulders, posture, seeing how our spines feel. We can tip our chins up and our eyes up to get a little bit more energy. And then we'll bring our hands to heart center and let's turn to face the long edge of the mat. Our typical sun and moon flowers, right? We're balancing something old, something new. So if we've done sun and moon a million times before, we know we can go straight up and down. We can hip hinge and come forward in our sun. If we've never done this before, I often say for my older clients, it's not like a Jane Fonda plie. We're just taking the feet wide into a wide squat. Let's find a comfortable distance between our feet. We're turned out, toes are pointed to the front edges of the mat. And our knees are always tracking with our toes, right? Okay, the next time we're in five-pointed star, let's stay there. So again, let's lift our chin, lift our eyes, energize our posture. We can bring our hands to heart center or maybe hips, depending on what feels more sturdy or stable. Let's turn our toes more forward. We'll do a side lunge, side to side. This is one of my favorites. So we'll bend one knee. Let's start with the right. That's our side lunge. It essentially looks like a chair pose in one leg and then is straight in the other leg. We'll come back through center and we'll go the other way. And then we can add maybe some more variations. So we might not be that low. We might want hand to thigh for support. But if we feel good with it, we can reach overhead. Maybe we're keeping hands to heart center the whole time through. So let's honor where our hips and shoulders are working today. But I do like to add this one so that we're moving through different planes of motion. Not just always moving straight front and back in our yoga classes and our mindful walking and our boot camp classes, but that we get some side to side. Actually, one thing I will say about our yoga is that we do a lot of moving backwards, which is fantastic. Keeps our brains working, not just front, but also back. So here we are getting sustained exercise. We're getting into that zone 2 area. We could ask ourselves how hard we feel we're exerting. Technically, we're still warming up. So we shouldn't be working too hard, but our heart rate's getting up there. Okay, let's go once more each way. And then we'll meet in our 5-pointed star, tall and proud. And let's bring our hands back to heart center. We'll turn our toes out again for a variation of our sun pose. And we'll do a balance challenge here. We might, if we've seen this done before, we could test out one heel at a time, pulling up through our pelvic floor or pelvic core, strong inner thighs. Okay, let's drop those heels strong and grounded. We're pulling in so the feet don't slide apart. Let's do a coordination challenge. So let's get super strong in our arms, like we're showing off our muscles. We're in our goddess arms or cactus arms. And we'll do it in opposites. So we're gonna turn the head, but we're gonna really engage the muscles of the upper back to support the neck and get a bit more stretch. So let's pull the right elbow back. Right elbow and shoulder are really squeezing back as we turn and look towards the left. So we're working in opposite directions. Right pulls back as we turn to the left. We take a breath. Let's come back through center. Let's go the other way. We pull the left back, really squeeze the back of the left shoulder, and we turn the head right. Take a breath, and then come back through center. And hopefully we can feel that engagement as we pull back. Let's pull both back. We can look down, we can look up. Maybe our legs are tired. We can look side to side. And then if we like, we can add our chest expansion. We can straighten our legs, pulling hand to hand in behind us. So we're using the strength in our backs to squeeze our hands back there, and they don't have to touch. We'll go ahead and release. Let's walk our feet together, and we'll walk up to the top of the mat, back to where we were when we started. So we did some intense work, and I'm gonna add a little bit of interval training here. So let's do a little breather. We'll do some Qigong or Tai Chi inspired work. We're gonna inhale up to our hearts, and then exhale down to our root chakra through our hands. And then we can bend the knees as we go. So you're probably facing the short edge of your mat, and I'm going to turn side to side. So I'm hoping that everyone can do this variation. And sometimes we like our bodies to follow our hands. Knees go down, hands go down, or sometimes we go backwards. Knees go down, hands come up. Doesn't matter. Let's be aware of what we're doing. And that's a good starting point. Okay, if we want to add on, so we can do a vertical jump variation. We can add sweeping of the arms and then coming back down. Sweeping of the arms, heel raise, and coming back down. And if you find that, like I said, the arms are going opposite from the legs, it's fine. To be more like a vertical jump, arms and legs go together. And maybe we're noticing as we come up, like we're doing some steps to regain our balance. I always like to tell my students, that's not a sign of failure. That's actually a sign of success. If we play it safe, our brain doesn't get enough challenge. But if we go so far, we've gone too far, That's the real challenge. That's when our bodies have to recalibrate, catch ourselves. That's when we get stronger. And if we would like, we want to do a vertical jump, by all means. So I don't know who your participants are, if they feel safe jumping barefoot, doing essentially a variation of our chair pose. Feel free to go for it. If not, skip it all together. All right, let's do one more here, and then we can all catch ourselves in chair pose. Might be a little bar stool, might be a deep chair. Finding our focus, challenging our lower body. Maybe we want to test our heels again, one at a time or both together. And then we can come back to standing. And let's go ahead and shake it out. And there are other variations of that I'll do with our clients too. And sometimes it's nice just to diffuse the energy. Again, Qigong, Tai Chi, let's drop the heels. So really heavy through the body. We can do it almost like Bhangra dancing. Let the shoulders drop, let the arms hang heavy. It's a stress on the body to put it through that kind of exertion that we just did. And we can relieve that stress by shaking everything out. We can do a big one and then drop and catch ourselves. Or if we want to perk our energy up, often I'll do this on a cloudy day. Shake it all out, let it go. All right, there's our vertical jump flow with some options and some recovery. Where are we? We did those. Perfect. Flight of the bird. Let's start our typical flight of the bird. So if we've done this before, it's a Beth Shaw classic. It's an alternative to sun salutations. Okay, so our typical flight of the bird, we step into a short stance warrior one, opening our hearts. Inhale, exhale back to the top of the mat. So it's an alternating lunge, not too different from our boot camp classes. Again, this is where we are doing a great job for longevity in yoga, even if we don't realize it, because we're moving backwards, right? Not a lot of other sports move backwards. So this is our typical flight of the bird, which is wonderful. Let's do one more, and I'll show us this one, I think, important tweak that I've made for my classes. Two options, depending on how you want to teach. From the top of the mat, we can get our students to turn around and face the back of the mat. If it's a new class, I will not do that because no one knows what's going on yet. So for today, we'll start from the back of the mat, and we're gonna step forward for our flight of the bird. So wherever we are, let's walk to the back of the mat, and we can take our feet to the center, and we are gonna step a little bit wider to be more comfortable for our back foot that stays flat. So we're gonna step to the edges of the mat in like a wide warrior one. If we're stepping straight forward, we're lifting our heel. And then we rewind, we step to the top. So if we're stepping wide, it's because our back foot is still planted. It's better for our spa alignment to step wide, instead of if I'm stepping forward, then my back knee might be kind of tweaked. If I'm stepping narrow, I'm lifting my back heel, all right? And then we do our flight of the bird. Right or left or right, doesn't matter. Let's alternate. Inhale to open our hearts. Exhale to bring it back. Strong legs, getting our heart rate up. Inhaling open. And exhaling closed. If we get the breath backwards, it doesn't really matter. So we can do this again, like super gentle. If we're in a chair class, we could be doing hand on the chair, one leg at a time, maybe 10 times. We put our hand on the chair the other way, 10 times. So it can be modified up or down. Maybe we're in a super intense power class and we're alternating, right? We can dial it up, we can dial it down. I don't know what your longevity goals are. Let's go one more on each side, whatever we're doing. We'll come back to center, and we are ready to do some balancing work. So we can stay at the back of our mat, or we can come back into the center of our mat where we have a little bit more space. And a typical movement, we'll bring our hands to our hips, and we're going to swing our leg. Right or left, doesn't matter. So I'm hinging from the hip when I come up, and then as I go back, I'm getting strength through the back line of the body. Challenging my balance. And again, this is a nice one that I like to dial up and dial down because my athletic clients are going to swing away. Even maybe, track athletes are familiar with doing this kind of movement. And my less athletic clients are going to lift, they're going to tap to catch their balance, and they're going to tap back. So I can have a 19-year-old standing next to a 90-year-old. I can have a hand on a chair, a wall, whatever. I could be doing it with a partner. Okay, here's our next challenge. Right or left doesn't matter, but the leg that we're swinging, let's bring it up to a strong hip hinge and pause, and then we'll press our flexed foot into a warrior 3. Let's do it one more time. Bring it up. Step it back. Pause. Strong through the back of the body. And then we'll come back to standing. And guess what? We got 2 sides. Noticing how this leg is feeling. Our standing leg might need a little shake. Our hips might need a little hula hoop to loosen them up. And we're ready for the second side. Okay, so let's get strong, let's get solid. Usually our second side is our less confident side, so let's see how we do. And I often like to say to go, whatever side feels natural, go that way first. The idea is actually that it is neurological, that it lays the blueprint or lays the foundation for our second side to kind of get with the program. So if we go with our naturally good side first, that tells our second best side how to do it. Okay, strong hip hinge, strong swing back, putting our hands wherever it helps to focus on our posture or our breath. Sometimes people like to hold their ears, helps them balance. Let's draw the knee up and pause. Let's press a flexed foot back into warrior 1. Whew, one more time. It's okay if we almost fall over and we need to recalibrate. And then if we fall out, we reset because we always want to finish on a positive note, right? Okay, we can shake it off. And let's just take a moment to let our heart rate come back down if we were working hard. Inhaling up, we can exhale through heart center. So we still technically followed our 3-mountain format, right? We did our warm-up, we did some hard work, we did some balance. If I were doing a full hour-long class with participants, I would add our warrior series. I would maybe add sun salutations. So today, instead of peppering these things through the class, the entire class is just longevity challenges. All right. Here we go. Malasana. So wherever you are, maybe you still at the back of your mat, let's step up more closer to the top of the mat. I'll face you so you can see. If we've never seen Malasana before, it is this one. It is one of our longevity tests. So let's see how low we can drop. We might need to take the feet quite high. I have a lot of participants who come down part way. And let's see if we can be curious about this, noticing what parts of our bodies are feeling strong, what parts of our bodies are feeling mobile or tight. Anyone who has issues with hypermobility, less common in an aging population, might feel unstable, might feel a little bit bendy. We might have space under our heels might be down. And there's really no dignified way to get out of this. Some of my participants just like to fall on their butts. I think the classiest way that we can get out of it is to come into forward fold and then to make our way back into child's. This is my best guess at how to stay classy in our Malasana squat. How are we doing? Okay, we have a little bit of time still. So we're going to come onto our bellies, and this is where if we want to block, we can have one. And if we don't have a block, anything else. Like I said, you could be using a pen, but we're going to work in the back range of motion. Super important for all of us at any stage, especially in the screen world that we live in. Everything we do bends us forward, so really helpful to have anything that lifts us up. Let's test out our cobra pose before we go anywhere. So from maybe you were just propped up on your arms or you were all the way down. Let's see if we take our thumbs to our shoulders, if we can lift up, rolling our shoulders down and back. So I picked this up at some point. Thumbs to shoulders seems to be a good way to stay wide across the collarbones. For whatever reason, we may like fingertips on the mat. Sometimes people are a lot more comfortable hands to their side pockets. Let's feel out how we're doing. Hopefully we're still breathing evenly through our rib cage. We can't get a super deep breath here because our lung capacity is cut off because we're lying on top of it. Let's settle down and rest for a second. We can bend our legs. Maybe shake off those hips or rest the forehead in sleeping crocodile. And let's layer this on. So for participants who can't lift off, I would say we can rest our foreheads down and we'll find our hands behind one another if we can. So some of us might be able to interlace, some of us might be up high, but we're testing out our range of motion in behind. We can rest at any time. Back bends are really an acquired taste, but if we're ready, we can take our block and start to go around the world. Noticing if we're going clockwise or counterclockwise, we're passing our block hand to hand in front of our faces, or if we're down over our head, if we can reach. And some of our participants may have mobility as such that they can, they really have trouble with this in all planes of movement. If we're still up here, let's change directions. So that might be a little confusing, noticing which direction we're going, pausing, and then switching. Maybe we're already feeling it in our back muscles. Maybe we're starting to wilt like an unwatered plant. We can pause for a moment here, maybe placing our forehead on the block. And let's do one more lift here. If you were still going, if you were still moving, we can put our hands behind our back, holding the block, or pen or piece of paper, whatever it is. And let's come into a variation of our cobra with our hands in behind our back, or locust. Maybe we like to lift the lower body as well, if that's okay with us. Sometimes it can be quite painful. And then since we have our block, let's find a comfortable resting position to recover. So that might mean forehead on the block in sleeping crocodile, or some of us might really be ready to come out of this position and we are ready to go way back into child's. And rest our forehead on the block here. And again, we're checking in. This might be a time for face and replace. So as we're here in child's or sleeping crocodile, you may be saying to yourself, oh my God, my back hurts, or that really didn't feel good for my shoulders, or I hate back bends. Let's see if we can rewire that thinking and say, okay, even though I'm feeling strain in my whatever, every time I practice yoga, I'm growing stronger. And it might feel really good, and that's okay too. So then noticing, right now I'm noticing I feel good in my whatever, and I'm appreciating my yoga practice. So we acknowledge how we feel and choose a useful or helpful thought. How are we doing? Okay. All right, let's do some foot stretches. This is a fairly ambitious option, but I did want to throw it in there. It's a variation of hero's pose where we tuck the toes and then sit on the heels. And like I said, it's pretty ambitious, but this again might be a good use for face and replace. Instead of thinking, oh my God, my feet are going to snap off, we can go, oh, I'm noticing lots of tightness in the soles of my feet. I think this might be helping my feet. Something like that. Don't be delusional, right? We want to choose affirmations that feel realistic. If we can't do that variation of hero's pose, we might be tucking the toes with our hands on all fours. Sometimes we're reaching back to help the toes along. Or some of my clients, we're holding the toes manually and giving them a little massage. We can interlace our fingers through our toes. If that feels okay, like be realistic about how dirty your feet are, and if you're gonna forget and rub your eye in a minute, maybe this is good for memory. All right, so different variations for different people. Those are our various options. We could also sit with the tops of the feet flat. And I find this is a really good test for nutrient deficiency and hydration. If we're getting cramps in our feet, our toes are seizing up, maybe we need to look into hydration and electrolyte balance, especially in the winter. Probably notice that this is a little an issue. And even a warm foot bath can bring blood flow to the area, can help with that, exposes our feet to different temperatures and textures. So I like to add work with the feet, even if it is uncomfortable, it can be quite revealing. So, all right, we're ready to sit. Maybe roll our feet or our ankles, wiggle our toes. If your feet or toes were really tight, again, you might need a warm foot bath. Look at electrolytes and hydration. We'll come to seated and we'll do one more movement here. One thing that we often lose as we age is the ability to do our own hair care. We can't anymore get our zipper or scratch our backs. We lose this in behind the head mobility. So I like to do it in an uplifting kind of positive psychology way. If we can, interlacing our fingers, placing them behind the head, letting the elbows open wide, resting the head back in the hands, lifting the chin. And there's something about this pose, it's one of these really easygoing power poses. I feel like I can picture myself on a sunny day underneath a tree that has big green leaves. And this is what they say about the eyes and the position of the head. So if we lift the head and close the eyes, that is sending a signal to the brain to help us feel more peaceful. And let's notice, let's see if we can choose a word to describe how we're feeling now. Maybe peaceful, content, at ease, maybe not, and that's okay. But this might be a nice way to take a break at our desk or our couch throughout the day, hands behind the head, and looking up. All right, let's bring it back through. And we could do all sorts of cow face variations too. To get a little movement going, if we don't know what cow face arms are, it's where we reach our hands in behind the head. And let's flow through. So an atypical variation of cow face. It can be tough to get into this position cold or at all. But I like to do this flowing variation again. We're building our proprioception in behind our backs. We're building the range of motion required to do any kind of bathing and dressing ourselves in behind our backs. We can make it kind of fun. We can match breath with movement. It's novel. And for any of our client base that just kind of cranks into poses, it can soften it. If our fingers touch, it's fine. If they don't, we can, touch the back of our shirt. Let's give it another 3, 2, last one. Great. And then at this point, maybe we're feeling a little creaky or cranky in our neck and shoulders. We want to loosen it up, roll them out, and we are ready to lie all the way down. So we might want to put on sweater, socks, that sort of thing. Remember, as I said, we become less heat and cold tolerant, so layers are our friends. But hopefully we regulated our temperature today through movement. We're feeling warmed up. If you are, like many people, experiencing a cold snap today. And whenever you're ready, we can come to lie on our backs. And there may be some final movement that you would like to do. Maybe a supine twist or a hip opener. A bridge pose or a long stretch. And in our own time, without any rush, finding a comfortable supine position. So please do finish off whatever your final pose is. And we can lie in our traditional relaxation or shavasana, which I think is such a fantastic pose, again, for supporting posture. A really great recovery position. My New Year's resolution is to daily supine. Doesn't matter how long, doesn't matter what I do, but I want it to be sticky. I want to do it every day at the end of the day to reset my spine after sitting slumped in front of my computer all day. So we can imagine that we are breathing width into our collarbones, breathing wide across the chest. Maybe our arms are out to T. And maybe we like that variation from earlier with the hands behind the head, eyes closed, knees bent. Sometimes I'll call this cloud gazers or stargazers pose. Feeling really nice and easy going here on our backs on the mat. Let's check in with our breath again, see how free flowing it is. And I'll lead us through a guided meditation that can actually be used as journal writing if you like, but it is designed to boost our positive mood and build a healthy internal environment. So let's start with one we're probably familiar with. Hopefully at this point we're comfortable, breathing easy, eyes opened or closed, whatever we like. Feel free to move if needed. But we'll start with a gratitude practice. So bringing to mind something that you feel grateful for, or maybe you prefer a different word, appreciative of, something nice that's going on in your life, something you love or you're happy about. And just noting that piece of gratitude in your mind. And if nothing comes to mind, that's okay. We can simply say to ourselves, gratitude or appreciation. And then let's think of some little glimmer, some golden nugget there was, hopefully today or recently, and this is just a good moment. Maybe something funny happened or something good happened, or the first time I heard somebody explain this, they just said that they saw a dog and somebody was putting sunglasses on the dog. And it was just like a funny moment. So a little glimmer or golden nugget from today or recently. And if we can't put our minds on them, that's okay. We know they exist, but maybe that's just a mental muscle that's not strong right now, and we're going to build that mental muscle. Could be the smell of your coffee, the feeling of your mat against your back. And we'll move on to kindness. Kindness is supposed to be actually more powerful than gratitude for mental well-being, boosting our mood. So think of the last time that you saw someone being kind. Humans are naturally going to be kind to one another when we're in a healthy state. Did you see someone hold the door open for someone else? Or maybe you did something nice for someone. Someone did something nice for you. Training our minds to notice these moments of kindness throughout the day can paint the world with a kinder brush. We start to see more kindness everywhere. Or maybe you have a plan. Oh, I would really love to do something for someone. It can be sending an email, a note of appreciation. Noting in our minds now if there's some act of kindness we could do in the near future. And knowing that it'll boost our well-being as much as the well-being of the person receiving it. And then moment of self-compassion, kindness for something that hasn't been going well, or something that we want to take off our back, take the weight off our shoulders. Maybe you decided that you were going to do something for your New Year's resolution. You're going to floss your teeth every day, and it hasn't happened yet. Let's see if we can take the sting out of that. We can put the weight of that obligation down. Tell ourselves it's okay. We can try again. Or maybe take it off our list entirely and deprioritize it. We know that we can't do it all the time. And finally, did you know the emotion that brings the most blood flow to the brain? It's enthusiasm. So let's pick out something in the near future, hopefully within the next 3 months. I don't want us to have to wait that long. Something we're enthusiastically looking forward to. Or maybe it's something that a project you're working on that you're really enthusiastic about these days. Searching our minds, searching our lives for something we're enthusiastic about. The days are getting longer, the weather's getting warmer. Something we can look forward to, something that's going on, anything that helps us to feel a sense of enthusiasm. And you might have a slightly different word to describe it, and that's okay. Picturing this happy, healthy blood flow traveling to our brains. And feel free to stay here as long as you would like. No need to get up. But giving ourselves a little pat on the back for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your interest in health and longevity. Maybe taking a hand to heart, noticing all the good that you've created inside yourself. And I'll finish with our common closing thought. May all beings everywhere be happy, peaceful, and free, and may my actions somehow contribute to this. Thank you so much for joining. Namaste.